Hello and welcome to Industry Insights. I'm your host Tom Betts. Today our special guest is going to be art director Sarah Notley. I'm looking forward to having a chat with her, but first let's just check out some of her very impressive work so far.
They have my weapons. They have my designs.
You got me down on the ground like I see double vision. I owe some mirrors and mirrors and baby, nothing's clearer. You got me running around like there's so much to do.
The Japanese archipelago, 20 years in the future.
Junior turboprop XJ750 and flew it to the island because of your dog.
I still need to fight them.
Baby, that's too much for you.
Sarah, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
So could you tell us what your job is and what it entails?
So I'm an art director in TV and feature film. An art director is kind of a bit of a broad job. It's a fantastic job. It's a bit of a broad job in the sense of one, you could be designing so many things and working with like so many designers as well. So it's quite an exciting, fun job in that way.
Right. And your current job gig is working on His Dark Materials for the BBC and HBO. Could you tell us a little bit about how that came about and what your responsibilities are on it?
So I'm an art director on His Dark Materials season 2, which we've just wrapped up. So I got very lucky. I was working with Bad Wolf already, working on their season 1 of Discovery of Witches. So I was very lucky in the sense that Joel came into the art department that we were already working in and kind of met everyone, got to know us all a little bit, and we were really lucky that he took us onto His Dark Materials. So it's kind of very lucky in that sense that we kind of worked for the same production company and went on to the new production. So, and then His Dark Materials is quite an amazing show in a sense of it's a huge kind of trilogy of books, and those books are like they're set in this beautiful fantasy world where there's multiple worlds that are very similar. So we have like a world that is very much like our own, and then there's worlds where the technology is much older, and then worlds where witches and armoured bears and all sorts of fantasy creatures are alive and living. So it's quite amazing to be on a show of that sort of scope and that sort of worlds, which is fantastic to be on in that genre. So my job as an art director on that is to work with Joel, who's the designer, and to bring his vision of what he sees everything onto the screen. So whether it's like Lee Scoresby's Balloon or Trollhättan, like an end of the world kind of port town, whatever those are, it's kind of our job to bring that to life and love it onto the screen.
Presumably you must have known, like from just hearing about the project, you knew there was going to be a lot for you to do on that one as well. So.
Yeah, it's just such a huge scope. Like every season of it, it just becomes more worlds unlock with the books and like just more creatures, and everything becomes bigger. And this whole world, you say worlds a lot because there is so many of them.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it's just a huge scope of design from period sets like Oxford and then onto like fantasy worlds where we've never even seen before. Like Trollhättan is based in Russia but slightly different from the Russia we know.
Yeah.
So it's this like mesh of slightly different things which makes the audience recognise it, but makes quite off about it at the same time because everyone's got these demons walking around next to them that are all lovingly done by puppeteers and then created into visual effects. So you walk onto a set and there's an actor there, but they've got the puppet next to them acting. So it's very different from the standard kind of day-to-day kind of shows in that way. It's very, very different. There's a lot more involved in it in that sense.
And so how do you even start the research process on a project like this or on other projects as well?
Well, every job's different in terms of like the designer and the research process. So Joel himself either does us like a sketch of how he wants us to look or works with the pre-visualization. So we either kind of get this beautiful concept of exactly how he wants it to look, which is the camera position and everything, or you kind of get a really like loose sketch which gives you a bit more to interpret. So from there we kind of bring these like sketches, find some reference based on them. So if it's like a Russian hotel, we kind of delve into that world of like Russia and what these real places look like to kind of bring a sense of reality. And then from there, I work with AutoCAD, so I'm digitally based and produce AutoCAD drawings and then also SketchUps, which is 3D models from there. So we can kind of produce these technical drawings that enables us to go, we can actually build this and then go on to a costing process as well, because sadly everything in this real world has a cost.
Of course, yeah.
So we then from there, I kind of oversee the build of the sets, whether that's like the construction side or the scenic elements. We also have like metal fabrication, so if we're doing like staircases or something that needs like that side like of fabrication, whether it's a gate or it could be all sorts of things. So we kind of work with a real range of people to produce these sets. And then the scenics come along and do beautiful work, from creating like beautifully plastered walls to like really interesting brick textures and crumbling sets. So it kind of is a really broad range of skills there. And then the last thing we do is hand it over to the directors and actors, which is kind of the crowning jewel at the end of these sets.
Right. So it's this big end result, and it all starts out on paper. I know you're
Yeah.
working on AutoCAD, but
It all ends up on paper, whether it's on a screen, it always ends up on a piece of paper on someone's desk. So it always starts off in life on paper.
right, okay.
As much as we are in a digital world with it all, it
Yeah.
always ends up onto a piece of paper, because at the end of the day, our construction department have to be able to produce and make these sets. So we have to create a drawing that they can work from
Right.
in that sense.
So you've got to be like a good communicator in this role as well. So.
Yeah, definitely. From Joel telling me what he wants and taking key points from that, from being able to direct the construction department and talk to the lighting department and all the other departments, that we all have to work together at the same time to produce these sets.
Amazing. And do you, when you think about, say, His Dark Materials, do you have like a favourite day working on it, whether it's in preparation or close to production? Anything sticks out?
It's really difficult, because there is so many moments you go, actually, today's been a really good day.
Yeah.
But I think for me it was handing over the Trollesen set, which was in season 1, because it was such a long build and there's so many people involved with it, from the art department right through to construction, to every person who walked onto set and dressed it as well, because every set has to have an element of dressing to it to give it the real world. If we just built sets where there's no sofas on or anything like that, it would it'd be an empty box as such. So there's a whole department of team people there that are out every day buying simple things, from like door handles to elegant curtains to all sorts of crazy Russian stuff that have to go into these sets like Trollesens. So, and part of that set is we had a 30-foot boat put
Right.
into our scrapyard,
Wow.
which is in itself amazing, but the technicality side of that as well. So it's a real scope of people. But I think for me, it was that day the actors walked on and they were in their winter coats in the middle of a sunny quarry.
Yeah.
And they're all there with like their demons and the puppets, and it was just, yeah, actually seeing people's reactions to that was quite amazing.
Brilliant. And you've gone to there, but you've come from, you're a graduate of USW.
Yeah.
So this is going to be watched by students and graduates of USW. Is there any sort of really, what's the best advice you can give them for people starting out in the industry?
I think it's always going to be hard starting out in the industry. You kind of come out of university and think, oh yeah, I'll get a job. But it's always that initial kind of going from the university into the job. But there's so many schemes out there, there's so many people willing to work with the university and want to take the graduates on. I think it's really good that there is that side of it. Yeah, I think for me it was just being able to willing to stick my hand up and go, oh yeah, I'll happily come and do that, I'll happily do this. So I did lots of different things before I finally stepped into the role that I wanted, because I knew in my final year that that was definitely what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to sit down and draw and produce beautiful sets. So for me, I was like, when I came out, I was like doing lots of bits like graphics, doing little jobs, until somebody gave me the chance and said, you know, there's a job come up, come and draft with us. So
Right.
I was very lucky then that I stepped into that role and haven't stopped since, really.
Well, no, it's been amazing, and I mean, we're enjoying your work now, and we've got another season and a half to go. I think we're out of time now, but thank you very much for being here, and best of luck with all your future projects.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.